I think we're live. Fantastic. This is the last live stream of the day, and it's the only one I'm going to have in English.
Yes, I should say thank you because I know all the other interviews you've done today have been in German, so
Yes.
thank you for not trying to interview me in German, because that would not go well.
Yeah, I'm very happy to try my best in English as well. You know, it's a big challenge for me. And also a very big thank you to you, Stuart.
My pleasure.
For coming onto the show.
Sure.
Stuart Russell is with me today. He is working the EMEA market as marketing manager. So nice to have you here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We want to talk a little bit about a few things. So
Yes.
the first thing is expansion strategies with Ross. Second is a little bit about the products and the product future of Ross. And then I want to talk about a little bit of the future view and how you see the market and how you would like to evolve together with Ross, you know?
Okay.
So, as I think we all know, Ross Video has become a pretty big company, you know,
yeah.
offering a vast variety of products, everything from automated news workflows for stadiums, live events. You have VR and AR applications. You can build huge IP infrastructures.
Yes.
Have graphic systems. I could go on for
everything in the kitchen sink, I think.
everything. Yes, you can always see that at NAB with the very big shows. But tell me, what's the core message of Ross Video? What's the baseline? What does Ross Video stand for when it comes to the core?
Well, I think, as you've just said, I think we have a very comprehensive range of solutions now, and some of that has been because we've acquired companies. Some of it has been organic, but I think all the acquisitions that we've made have all been very complementary to what we do. And David Ross, our CEO, he's a long-term thinker. He's a big believer in growing a company, building a company that's hard to kill, because he wants to be around for a long time. So I think his view is, let's build something that has lots of different arms, lots of different limbs, that will be difficult to kill, can be very resistant. Because you know what the industry's like. There are times when things are good, times when things are a bit tougher. So I think the core message is we are a very stable company. We're still family owned, employee owned. We've been around for 44 years now, I think. Only ever had two managing directors. So John Ross, the founder, and David, his son. So we're very consistent in the way that we approach the market. We're very focused on customer service and doing the right thing by the customers. I think that reflects in the products that we make, the product strategies and the product roadmaps. We are very good, I think, at taking customer feedback and translating that into new product developments. And just building that comprehensive range of solutions. I think trying to make sure that we have lots of good solutions for customers to help take them new places, help save them money, save them time, answering some of those creative business and technical challenges that they face every day.
That sounds good. You've just touched on the product portfolio and that you try to expand as widely as possible to be relevant in the long term.
Sure.
Do you see any aspects of the product portfolio that you'd like to expand even further? Is there anything?
Well, the simple answer is yes, but it's always a difficult question to answer, because when anyone asks me, what's the priority for Ross? What are you focusing on? I always have to answer and say, well, everything, because we have about 18 different product segments within the company, and we're doing a lot of things still in the SDI domain. We're doing a lot of things with 12 gig. We're doing a lot of things with IP. And when I look across the solutions range, we have, as you said earlier, we have everything from cameras to switchers to graphics to automation, and each of those product areas is looked after by a dedicated team, and those teams are always working on things, and it's often at different stages of development, but there's always something going on in the different product areas that I mentioned. So sometimes it feels like everything's a priority because there's always so much work going on behind the scenes. We took on over 70 R&D engineers last year.
70?
70. So a huge amount of growth in R&D, huge investment in R&D, and that's because David wants to expand those different product areas and keep on building. I think there are going to be some very interesting things happening this year in some of the product areas, switchers, infrastructure, certainly robotics is a big one for us. So there are certain areas that I think maybe when it comes time to NAB in Vegas, certain areas that may definitely be worth looking at, but there's always so much going on with us. When last NAB when we spoke, I think we had something like 14 new products and maybe another dozen or so significant updates. So life is never boring, and by the time we get to the end of NAB, I really want to just sit in a darkened room and not talk to anyone because I spend so much time explaining what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's a miracle I haven't lost my voice by the end of the show.
Yeah, that's never a good thing.
No.
But I know the feeling.
Occupational hazard though.
Yeah. I've recently seen an interview with David Ross talking about not being greedy when it comes to expanding and growing the company.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a good time to be a little bit greedy and expand the company even further, just by buying Grass Valley. It's on the market.
Wow.
Have you ever thought about that?
It's an interesting thought.
They have cameras.
David has, David has given interviews in the past where he has talked about the kinds of companies that we acquire. And I think he said that generally he looks for companies that are no bigger than about 10% the size of Ross. Because I think if you buy a smaller company like that, it makes the whole process of integration
onboarding
a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So number one, I suspect Grass are probably too big for us. I'd like to think we could afford them, but I think they're probably too big. And also, I think we probably have too many products that overlap. But I think in terms of size, I think they're too big for us. So David's very clear. He wants to make sure that the companies that we acquire are very complementary to what we do, that do things that we don't, but will fit in very well. But we're in a fortunate financial situation. We have cash in the bank. We're always looking at companies that might be interesting for us to acquire. And I think there's a very good possibility that when we're talking together in Vegas that we'll have something interesting to talk about on that side of things. So.
I certainly will wait and see.
Yes.
I guess.
I think it could be an interesting show for us.
That's true, but for the moment, we are at Hamburg Open.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Your booth is just across this one hall we have here.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you have brought to Hamburg Open this year?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a reasonably compact system with us this time, and we're basically showing off some fairly straightforward news and sports workforce. Dashboard.
Because you think news and sports is very relevant to the German market?
Yes, absolutely, yes. And I think also doing things the way that we're doing here, using Dashboard, which is our open interface control system. We have some custom touch panels that we've built to show how you can, it's not really automation, but how you can manage and use a sports workflow very easily and simply with Dashboard, because it is all touch screen and we can customize the panels to suit the users. So I think a combination of the Dashboard panels, the Carbonite production switcher, which is a very, very popular product for mid-size applications. It's the best-selling mid-size switcher in the world. So That is a product that the German market seems to appreciate. Expression graphics, and we're also showing off Ultrix, which is our AV processing and routing platform, which again has been a very successful product for us in Germany. So we're talking about some of the updates that we've made to that platform.
And if we talk about the European market, I mean, you're responsible for the European market in total. Do you have a special product strategy when it comes to this continent? Is it any different to the exposure you have worldwide?
Slightly, perhaps, yeah. I mean, I have really noticed that something like Ultrix, for example, that I just mentioned, Europe was very quick to embrace that product and adopt it, because I think the European market really quickly saw the benefits of that in terms of collapsing a lot of very traditional infrastructure products down into one small unit. So I think sometimes with that sort of stuff, I think the European market is quite progressive, and if you give them a good business case for a product and you really show the benefits, I think people are prepared to go for it, you know. Also, I think in some markets, I mean, esports, for example, you know, we do some work with some of the biggest esports producers. Again, I think the European market has been very quick to adopt what we're doing with esports. With traditional sports, like stadiums and big teams, the US market I still think is a little bit ahead of us there.
Yeah.
So maybe the product mix in Europe is slightly different. But you know, as I said before, I like to think that we have good solutions no matter what the question is, and I think that applies globally.
That's a very nice statement to make, yeah, I guess. And you also kind of answered part of my next question, which is what is the hottest market for Ross at the moment? Just because everyone is doing video at the moment, you know, even we are doing video right now, which is a premiere. So what do you think is the most intense market at the moment? Is it esports?
I think after broadcast, we're certainly seeing a lot of growth in esports and traditional sports as well. You know, those are fast-growing markets, and there is a lot of money in these markets. They are financially very lucrative, so I understand why a lot of content creators are very keen to get involved in those markets. But we're also seeing a lot of growth with corporate organizations, large corporate companies, Facebook, Google, people like that. They are not sending people around, traveling people around, you know, on flights as much as they used to. They are very aware of their carbon footprint. They are all companies now that have environmental policies, so they are trying to find ways of getting content out to, you know, customers and employees without flying everybody into meetings on a regular basis. So that corporate side of the business has grown very much, and beyond that, there are so many other different verticals and different markets that we work in. You know, education, houses of worship is another big one for us.
That's more like for the American market, I guess.
Yeah, well, we do some work in the Middle East. We do some work in Australia, South America, especially Central Africa, with some of the big churches, some of the big mosques as well.
You have just recently released a project with.
The Grand Mosque in Sharjah.
Yes, exactly.
Second biggest mosque in the Emirates, holds 25,000 people. I mean, unbelievable. It's huge space, and you know the Ross cameras and a lot of the infrastructure and the switcher, came from us, which is it's a beautiful building. It's an amazing project when you see it. So you know we're seeing growth in other areas outside of broadcast. Broadcast is still a big market for us, though, because you know we're still a little bit of a challenger brand in Europe, so we still have plenty of growth, I think, to get from broadcast.
That's I surely hope so. It's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to have.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I think we're doing okay. So long may it continue.
Let us talk a little bit about the technical side of things,
Okay.
about technical innovations. Just recently, the NAB New York has finished,
Yes.
and you have introduced a new product. It's called MC1 UHD. Maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, that's a relatively easy one because we've had a master control product for years. You know, MC1 has almost become ubiquitous, really, in the market. You know, it's something that we're very well known for. It's almost become a bit of a de facto standard. So the R&D team had wanted to produce an HD version of that for some time now. It's always difficult because the limitation for us has been human resource. You know, we can't employ people fast enough. We really can't.
Do you find enough qualified personnel?
It can be a little bit tough. Because especially in Canada, where the headquarters is, you know, there are lots of competing companies there, tech companies that are employing as well. So it can be a little bit challenging, perhaps. But we've managed to, you know, liberate some of the guys to produce this HD version of MC1. It's taken us a little bit longer maybe than we wanted, but again, you know, it's something that we've really needed to do. So I'm very happy that we now have that, and I'm sure that will be a successful product because there's a lot of appetite for that.
What you now have as well is an IP blade for your Ultrix.
Yeah.
Did you see a specific need to update Ultrix with an IPIO?
It just makes sense. Again, I mean, Ultrix has been an amazingly successful product for us. You know, we had the 1 and the 2 RU versions. We then brought out the 5 RU. You know, it has this massive processing fabric, incredibly powerful product. It does, you know, routing, multi-viewers, you know, clean, quiet switching, audio embedding, de-embedding, a massively powerful product with this, you know, very innovative audio fabric, and it just made sense. You know, so much of the broadcast world in the States and Western Europe is looking at IP. We have to be there with an IP solution. So I think having the IP blade makes a lot of sense, opens up a lot of possibilities now for Ultrix. It's just a very natural evolution, I think, to the product roadmap. So I'm pleased that we have that. And again, already we're seeing a lot of demand for that. It's going to be important for us.
So if you say you've seen a lot of demand for that, yes. Is Ross listening closely to the customer demand? So was that also a demand by the customer saying, hey, we would like to use Ultrix, but we need to have like IP capabilities?
A little bit, yes, but I think we felt like it was just such a natural and obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
Not always an easy thing to do, but I think with some product roadmaps, there are certain parts that almost write themselves.
Yeah.
And I think having produced Ultrix, the next natural extension on for that product was IP. And again, I mean, we're going to CABSAT in Dubai fairly soon. It's towards the end of March. We have a little bit of a habit of launching products that are related to Ultrix at CABSAT. So again, I think, you know, anybody who follows us and keeps track of what we're doing, I think if they keep one eye on CABSAT, again, there may well be something interesting to talk about there.
All right, fantastic. What we certainly also want to talk about is graphite.
Yes.
You've increased the versions. The last one I think was 2.3,
I think, yes.
Which has increased audio capabilities quite a bit. Can you tell us what you did there?
Yeah, again, that's a relatively simple one. Graphite, for anyone who doesn't know, is our kind of integrated production solution. So that does switching. It's a real carbonite switcher, real expression graphics, and a very powerful audio engine that we called Rave in the box. Nice thing about graphite is that all of the important hardware is on a separate PCI card. So if you're working and you lose the PC element for whatever reason, you can still switch. So I think it overcomes some of the difficulties that maybe some of the traditional all-in-one PC-based products maybe have. The Rave audio engine was actually designed for us by an audio engineer in-house, somebody who's a very well-known audio geek within the company, really nice guy, and he designed this engine for us. We launched it because we wanted to get it out for NAB, but we felt there were some improvements that needed to be made. So we've made a couple of little updates to it. The big one is equalization. I think now that we have that, that's a big help. I think it just makes that audio engine a little bit more powerful, but easier to work with. So we'll see how that goes. But again, a nice little update, something that was important for us to do.
And you keep on releasing those updates in the future?
Yeah, we try. I think.
Do you already know what's next for Graphite?
Maybe.
Maybe you don't want to talk about it too.
Maybe. Again, as I said earlier, there are so many things, and everything is always being updated. I think we do see a trickle-down effect. We make updates to the switcher platforms, we make updates to the graphic platforms. If we can trickle those things down into something like Graphite, then obviously we do that as best we can. So we don't like having dead ends to things. I think
sure.
is what I'm saying. We like to keep being able to offer these updates, and we have a very good track record of that. So I think that's an important part of the company philosophy.
All right, nice. So let's talk a little bit about the future, and maybe a little bit about the past as well.
Okay.
Last NAB, you have said that Piero,
yes,
the sports analysis tool,
yes,
is now being part of Ross Video. And the question I have is how did the integration go, and what are the future plans with that product?
Yeah, I mean, Piero is, as you say, it's a sports analysis tool. Very powerful product. We really liked it before we acquired the company. In terms of how the acquisition, how the integration has gone, very easily actually. Again, it's another one of those solutions that is a very nice complement to what we do. I think Piero, the guys had quite a lot of popularity in Europe, but maybe in the Americas and in Asia, maybe not quite as popular as they would have liked. So, becoming part of the Ross family, I think, has given them bigger reach. It's given them a little bit of more sales muscle, a little bit more potential, which is great. We've just opened, or we're just about to open, a brand new office for the Piero guys in London, in White City, which is right next to where the BBC have their offices. Mm-hmm. So, we're investing in office space for those guys. We're investing in the next stages for the product. So I think the future there is going to be very healthy. We have just very recently re-signed a deal with BN Sport in Qatar, and that's going to be their graphics tool. Piero is going to be used for the football show that they have every Sunday that does all the English Premiership football. Yeah. So I think it's been good for them because it's opened up some new markets.
Have you seen some uptake in interest
since
definitely. It's part of Ross?
Yeah, definitely.
Just because now it's being part of a bigger
I actually
brand?
I got an email a couple of days after the press release went out about the acquisition. I got an email from a guy who works for one of the famous football teams in Brazil. I don't know how he got the press release, but he said, I've seen this, I need to talk to somebody about it. So I think that's the one and only time I've ever generated a sales lead, so that was quite nice.
Yeah, that's nice, yeah.
But it has definitely, it's picked up, and I think that will, long term, I think that will turn out to be a very good acquisition for us.
So I know that David Ross is also very cautious about investing in future products. Mm-hmm. I was talking to him years back when IP was picking up and everyone was starting to launch IP products. Yes. He was like, we have to wait and see. We have to kind of take care of the current business. It's most of it is SDI, back then at least, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a few years later, and obviously IP has picked up pace, kind of. And there's also a trend towards virtualizing solutions as well. Is Ross thinking about offering cloud-based software solutions in the future? And are there any plans going forward?
Sure. You're right. I mean, to your first point, David is absolutely a pragmatist. And his famous quote that I like to share with people is, David always says, you have to be careful not to innovate yourself out of business. Yeah. And you know, when IP first became a thing that everyone talked about, you know, I was at an IBM conference 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and people said, well, you know, who thinks that the bulk of production is going to be done in IP by 2020? And 95% of people put their hands up. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, here we are in 2020, and we're not there. You know, we're not there yet. So I think David, you know, he's a very shrewd guy, and he likes to, you know, he likes to be pragmatic about things. I think the line that we have taken on IP is pragmatic. That's the right word for it. You know, we've said, absolutely, you know, we need to be involved in this. We know it's the future. We are committing to develop products in the IP domain. But at the same time, if you look at the map of the world, it's a big place, and there are lots of parts of the world where people are, you know, worried about many things. If you're a broadcast engineer, there are many things that stop you sleeping at night, but IP maybe isn't one of those things. And I still like the idea of Ross being able to say to the market, it doesn't matter whether you are SDI, 12 gig, IP, hybrid, we almost don't care. We still have solutions that can help you. You know, we're transport agnostic almost. You know, it doesn't matter what world you're living in. We have solutions for you. And I think that's a powerful message, but I think it's incredibly pragmatic. What was your second point again about?
If you're planning on investing more time and effort about creating cloud-based software solutions.
So the quick answer to that is we already have cloud-based solutions. We have Newsroom in the cloud, which is a product called Inception.cloud. We also have Streamline in the cloud, which is a media asset management solution.
So what you're saying is whenever it makes sense to virtualize.
Yes, absolutely. And we did, you know, at IBC this year, we were showing a fully virtualized expression graphics workflow. By the time we get to NAB this year, we will already have customers using that. So we showed it as a technology demonstration last year, but we're going to have customers live by April. Virtualization, I think, is a really exciting side of the market. It makes a lot of sense in a lot of areas. It doesn't mean the hardware is going away anytime soon, and I'm fairly comfortable with that. But you know, absolutely, where it makes sense, where the business model works, and where customers are going to get benefit out of it, I see no reason why we shouldn't be. You know, we shouldn't be at the front end of that.
Okay, so I have one last question for you, and it's a little bit a tricky one because you know. I know it's not really easy for you to answer.
You're saving the best to last.
The best for last, the trickiest for last, maybe. I know you have all the new product releases at NAB, obviously. It's the biggest show in the world, and you always have like this huge keynote to reveal it all. But can you share a little bit about what you are currently working on and maybe what's to expect from Ross at NAB?
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably gave you a little bit of a hint earlier on. I think there are definitely things happening in the world of production switchers and in the world of infrastructure that I think are very interesting. You know, we've done some cool things in that area over the last couple of years. You know, we launched Carbonite Ultra, that is a really interesting product, very novel in terms of the platform. We launched Ultrix, which again, very disruptive product. You know, taking that world of infrastructure and routing into a completely different area. So I think in terms of those two product areas, keep your eyes on those. Keep your eyes on what we're doing with robotics, because that's always a fast-moving area. And you know, graphics and sport, rendering especially, you know, the way that we render graphics on large or unusually sized displays, that's going to, you know, keep on growing as an important part of our offering.
What you're saying is there's a whole new range of products you're going to introduce at NAB as well.
I mean, I've had a little bit of advance sight of what we're going to do at NAB this year. It's going to be a hell of a show.
All right, that's very good.
There's not going to be a lot of sleep in Vegas this year, I can tell you.
That's a very good last statement to make. Before we wrap it up, I want to quickly take the chance and thank our technical sponsor for today, because obviously we're doing a live stream and we could never do it without the help of our technical supplier, which is Mobile Viewpoint. They've provided us with this fantastic little neat studio, and yeah, thank you so much for that. Stuart, thank you so much as well. Thank you for coming onto the show.
Not at all.
It was a premiere. Yeah. It was in English, and it was the first time at Hamburg Open for us, so thank you.
Always lovely to talk to you.
If we keep on going next year, I'm happy to invite you back, because you're always very pleasant to talk to.
You're very kind. Thank you so much.
And yeah, for everyone watching, we're back tomorrow for the second day of the show. Then it's going to be all in German again, and yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting as well. So thank you for tuning in for today. We're wrapping up the live stream now, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wiedersehen.
Wiedersehen.